RCN's Matt Broadbent is here to talk to us about law fairs and preparing for university law fairs, which is absolutely essential if you're going to be having a successful and productive experience there. Thanks for talking to us today, Matt. Can I just first ask, why is preparation so essential at a law fair? Why shouldn't you just turn up not knowing anything about the organisations and just sort of trying to learn what you can while you're there?
Well, to some extent you maybe can do that if you're your first term at university and you're going along to try and sort of see how the land lies. But actually what you have to recognise is that law firms are a golden opportunity to get inside information on organisations. So there is lots of information about firms that you can pick up online, in publications, Law Careers Net, Training Contract Handbook, etc. That stuff's available to you in advance of the event. And actually what you need to be doing is working out an opinion or some kind of thoughts on an organisation prior to meeting its people, because then you can test out those thoughts and ideas and actually get some clarification from what the literature might have brought up in your mind as to how those organisations operate.
So what kinds of things should you be asking when you finally get your chance to speak to a recruiter or one of the lawyers present?
Well, what you should be trying to do is actually find out information that is not available in the written form. So that can be a variety of things, but I think the really important thing is to try and actually work out the vibe of that organisation. How do people talk? What do they do? Do they seem to like what they do? What's the environment? Because if you speak to, say, a trainee at an organisation, that's you in a couple of years. So you've got to say, is this the kind of person I want to have as my colleague? Is this person enjoying their working life? So it's those sort of insights that you need to be looking for. The other thing you need to be doing is just perhaps getting yourself noticed by asking intelligent questions that demonstrate that you've understood what that firm is all about. So going into a firm and saying, "What do you do?" is unacceptable. It's very, very apparent what they do because you can look it up on their website. What you want to ask is about the nuance of what you do, or perhaps what they do and how that has changed over a period of time, or more specifically how they serve their clients, how they get their clients. There's a zillion and one questions you can actually ask, but the key point is that your questions that you ask them should demonstrate some kind of prior knowledge and demonstrate a thought process that suggests that it would be useful for you to have this further knowledge to use in your decisions about whether to apply for that firm, or indeed, if you are going to apply for that firm anyway, how you can maximise the effectiveness of your application.
Sure. So when you're approaching a firm at a law fair, it's much more about having a general conversation in which there could be any one of a million questions, rather than asking specific things like when's your deadline that you can find out online. Obviously, firms aren't the only organisations present at law fairs. Law schools are also present at universities for people who are going to be going on to take the graduate diploma in law, legal practice course or bar professional training course. So what kind of things should you be asking these very different organisations?
Well, that is an interesting question, because the relationship's rather different there, because in the case of these organisations, they're basically there on a selling mission. They want to flog you a course. That means you've got a lot more scope to perhaps pump them for information that perhaps you could have got somewhere else. But I think if you've got what you think might be a slightly less sophisticated question, maybe asking it of one of the law schools is a good idea of doing that, so you don't make yourself look foolish in front of a potential employer. But they are experts in this field as well. So they will certainly be able to give you some insights into the sort of academic learning aspects of becoming a lawyer. Another thing that you want to be asking if you are actually considering buying courses from one of these providers is about their courses and getting some understanding of what they actually offer. Course providers will offer different options, different electives. Another real key thing is what kind of career service do they offer, because if you are going into a postgraduate law course provider without a training contract, you've got to find a job pretty quickly to recoup your investment, and that should be one of the key sells for an organisation. Are they going to help you get a job? And you can be pretty brutal about asking what do they offer and what's their rates of success. You may or may not get a good answer from it, but these are really important for your consideration.
Worth asking. And just finally, about students' presentation of themselves at fairs. We talked about what they should be doing in terms of conversation and stuff, but on day, what would you advise students wear? Is it important to wear a full business suit, or could they get away with smart casual, or does it not matter at a law fair, and so on?
It's funny that if you go from fair to fair, there seems to be a different dress vibe. Some universities clearly advise their students to take the course of least risk, which is if you turn up in a suit, you're looking the part. I don't think it's entirely necessary to wear a suit, but on the other hand, you should be presentable. You shouldn't be portraying anything that will give a firm cause for concern. Now, whether or not they have real reason to have cause for concern, just look at it through their eyes. If you think I'm an uptight law firm, would I like the look of this person? And if you think they wouldn't, then why do yourself the disservice of putting yourself at risk? A particular bugbear of mine, and I've pulled people up at fairs, is people walking around with their headphones in, which is a pretty normal thing to do, but if you go up and talk to a firm and you've got some headphones in, it looks seriously disrespectful. Even if there's nothing playing, if they think you're listening to music while you're talking to them, you're just being rude.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Good advice. Okay, Matt. So in the weeks leading up to a law fair, days and weeks leading up to it, what would be your sort of tips for preparing in the build up to a law fair?
Okay, well, if it's a really big fair with dozens and dozens of firms, say the Manchester one, which is in the Manchester Central complex, with frankly more firms that you could possibly research in advance. Similarly, say Nottingham again, which has a really big hall. You've actually got to do some preliminary work on working out which firms you're going to target. You can't talk to them all. And as we said before, while it's good to know something about firms, perhaps identify your A list of firms and do some proper prep with them. And then some other ones, just have a bit of background knowledge about, so that you can ask something relatively intelligent. Frankly, it may be that you're going to end up going to somebody where you don't know very much about them, and maybe you explain that you've prepared sort of 7 or 8 firms, or demonstrated that you've done the preparation, and just said, I haven't had a chance to know very much about you. But the key is to have done some core preparation. The other thing to do is enlighten yourself in what's going on in the legal world that's been going on the last few weeks in the press. Have a look through the news section of Law Careers Net or its competitors. Read a couple of the bits of the legal press. Look at the look at the business press. Just perhaps have some knowledge, because one of your fallback questions could be, what do you think about X issue that's going on in the legal profession? And that again shows that you're prepared. It's actually quite a low impact way of making a good impression.